Hey everybody, I am so glad to be back with our final segment in the Fostering Emotional Health in Kids series. Tonight's video is definitely earlier than normal and it was a bit unannounced and I apologize for that. And to be really honest, everything right now in my world is chaotic. So join my Sawhill Circus. This is Colin. Say hello. So I've got one kiddo who's down with a bad headache, and then I've got this guy who's just about ready for bed. So I want to be able to make sure that I am being responsive to my own children, because responsiveness is part of tonight's whole spiel. And really, I mean, it's been what we've been aiming for all week is learning how to respond to our children's emotions. So I want to be able to wrap up my work day, wrap up my social media day, those kinds of things, and really be able to tune into my kids for the next hour or so as we wind down and head to bed. Side note, normally they don't go to bed quite this early, but they didn't sleep as well as they normally do last night with my husband being gone and things. I think that's just kind of messed up our flow. And so with them not sleeping well, I'm going to make up for some of that sleep debt by putting them to bed early. And that doesn't work on an ongoing basis, but it works to catch up once in a while. Okay, if you're catching replay, make sure you let me know because it helps me to know who comes back and who watches, who's engaging. That way I can make sure that these series and these videos are really meeting your needs. That's why I do them. I have the knowledge. I want to share the knowledge, and I don't do it just to watch myself talk. So if you're here, say hello, say replay, tell me your favorite part, something like that. So tonight we're going to talk about distraction versus redirection. This is an important part of emotional health because they are different terms that are often used interchangeably, but they're not actually interchangeable actions. So distraction is typically used when a child is upset. It's not necessarily, we don't really see, actually, I'm going to do this backwards from what I had planned in my brain. So redirection, when we say, I need to redirect my child, what we mean is we want to divert their attention from something that's going on and make it better. But what we often do is we actually kind of shut down their emotion about something. Typically, we engage in redirection when there's a misbehavior occurring. So, for example, this came up in a conversation on my personal wall last week, and I think I used this example earlier in this series too. Yes, you think? That let's say your child is hitting, okay? And they are, let's say they're hitting the dog. Yes, dear. Yes, dear. After I'm done with this video, headache kid would like something that he doesn't need right now. Mommy. Yes. Circus, I'm telling you. Okay, so let's say your child is hitting the dog. If we instead say, oh my gosh, look at this puzzle, let's do this puzzle, and we get out the toys and we're like, la la la, let's do the puzzle. Your child stops thinking about hitting, and so they are no longer doing that misbehavior or that undesired behavior. But the problem is you didn't address motive. So they don't understand what they did was wrong, and they don't understand what they can do differently next time. That's part of fostering emotional health, is not only labeling the feeling, but teaching how they can work with it. Why are they feeling that way? How can they respond? How can they have an outlet for that feeling? I see some people jumping on. Say hello, because it's not telling me who you are. So redirection is really meant to be used to take an undesired behavior to a more desirable behavior while addressing motive. Okay, so you're hitting, it wouldn't really necessarily make sense to say, okay, let's do a puzzle instead. But what might make sense is, we can't hit the dog because that hurts the dog. And you're not sitting in that seat. You're fine. He can sit there.
little bit better.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So rather than, no, please don't. I'm trying to do this video. It's already a hot mess up in here. Take that to your room if you'd like to do it, please. You're welcome to play with that toy, but I need you to do it in a place where it's not going to be distracting. Thank you. Maybe this was a bad idea.
Why?
Because I haven't finished a sentence yet without being interrupted. He says, why? So we don't hit the dog because it hurts the dog. If we just say we don't hit, that doesn't really process in our kid's brain. Well, why? Like when I'm at karate, I'm allowed to hit. How come I can't hit now? So we need to address motive. We can't hit people when it hurts. We can't hit the dog because the dog could get upset and snap at you, whatever the motive is. So we can't hit a dog. But if you're hitting because you're angry, you could hit a pillow instead, because that's going to help you get your anger out. It's going to take that angry energy and hit. Now, someone had said, but what if I don't want my kid to hit at all? What if that's just like the rule, the blanket rule is we don't hit? No problem. You can still address the motive of the anger by saying, sometimes when I'm angry, I like to stomp my feet. You can't see my feet stomping, but they are. I like to stomp my feet, and that helps me get my anger out. Or I like to blow bubbles, or I like to get a pillow near my face and yell into it. Sometimes that helps me stop feeling angry. That's a redirect. You're allowing your child to still use the same emotional base, and you're allowing them to express whatever it is that they're expressing, but in a healthy way. Why are you putting my hand in your mouth, you very strange little human? So the real crux of, don't you bite me? Biting hurts, Mommy. No, we don't bite because that hurts. And we don't hit. See, watch this redirection. Ready? We don't hit Mommy because it hurts. If you would like to hit, please go get a pillow or a blanket out of your room. You can go hit a pillow. But don't hit Mommy's face because it hurts me, okay?
That's
Do you hear
example.
me? Okay, thank you. So the crux, the most important thing to know about redirection, I'm going to have to come back and redo this video for you all. I'm so sorry. But for now, the point of redirection is to address the motive and give them a healthy way to accomplish the same desire, okay? One note about redirection, when you're, okay, now it's enough. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. When you try to redirect entirely away from an action,
Stop.
Please don't push your brother, that hurts him. When you try to redirect entirely away, so let's say, for example,
Hi, guys.
your child goes to lick a sharp knife. If you just take the knife away and say, oh my gosh, we can never lick a knife, and then you go on to the next thing, then when they see you lick the jelly off a butter knife, they might be like, wait, what just happened? So rather than redirecting all the way away, the point is we want compliance. And so if it's something dangerous, we want to make sure that we give them an opportunity not only to explain and understand motive, but give them a chance to explore that in a safe way with healthy boundaries. So rather than grabbing the knife away and oh my gosh, we don't ever touch knives, take the knife and say, this is, a knife is something for a grown-up to hold. Yes. Can you please take that toy to your room? I know you'd really like to play with it right now, and I would love to see you play with it, but it's really distracting me, and it's really distracting your brother. So why don't you take it to the living room or over to your bedroom to play with it, please? Okay, then you're going to have to wait until I'm all the way done with this video to play with that toy. Would you like to play with it in your room, or would you like to wait till I'm done? What sounds better to you? You're going to wait? That's the choice you're making?
No, I'm just not going to play with it.
You're just not going to play with it at all? Okay, you're entitled to make that choice as well.
Sorry. I'm
That's
just
okay.
trying to get the toy out.
So with redirection in an unsafe situation, you would take that knife and you would say, knives are something that grown-ups are allowed to hold. Why don't you look at it with your eyes? And I'm going to show you this part is really sharp. That's why Mommy snapped at you and said, no, because I was worried that you were going to get hurt. So if you give them a safe boundary and way to explore whatever the dangerous thing is, they're much more likely to comply and to internalize that message rather than be like, oh, she just freaked out, whatever, and now I don't even understand. So the next time I'm just going to pick the knife up and do it again. What we often call redirection is actually distraction. So distraction is where we, again, divert the attention to a whole other thing. And that's not responsive. That's not addressing your child's motive. It's not addressing the emotion. Typically, what we see for parents who do use both redirection and distraction is we see redirection for behavior, but we see distraction for upset or a tantrum or some sort of emotional outlet that way. And the reason that it's disrespectful to your child is because it doesn't address how they're really feeling, and it doesn't help them process that feeling and know what to do with it next time. You're essentially shutting down the feeling and diverting them to something entirely different. So you're not really responding to that emotional need. Really, honestly, the reason that we do it, the reason it's in our human nature as parents to use distraction is because we want to make something stop quickly by whatever means necessary. So we do this with the youngest of kids. Think about, your 3-month baby that's crying. You wave a rattle. Oh, shh, wave the rattle. Okay. And studies show that works. It will distract the child and it will diminish their distress level and all of those physiological stress signs and symptoms in their bodies and brains. But as soon as we take that distraction away and the rattle goes away, that stress level measurably comes right back to where it was before we distracted. So that tells us that distraction doesn't actually do what we want it to do. It does not stop the feeling. It does not make our children feel better. It's just literally a distraction. So it takes the mind off whatever is upsetting them, whatever the catalyst is to their tantrum. Yes, that is my eye. Thank you. Or emotional response. But we don't acknowledge what that feeling is. So it can just become reactive rather than responsive. What else did I want to tell you about distraction? Oh, attention and distress operate in different parts of our brain. So the parts of the brain that control those things are not related, which is why distraction is temporary but doesn't actually quell the anger or upset or sadness or frustration. And our kids still have to deal with that, but without knowing how. So it's one of those things that's okay if it's a last resort or if it's an immediate need. You need your child to immediately not run into the street. And so you're going to distract them with, oh my gosh, pull this ball, look at this ball over here. Look. Okay, we're going to go over here. That's an appropriate use of distraction. But when we're using it as our, what? Okay, I'll stop. Thank you for telling me. When we're using that as our go-to to react instead of respond, then again, we're teaching our children to shut down that behavior and we're not acknowledging it. Hey, Katie. And I touched on this very, very briefly on the first segment about feelings and identifying and labeling feelings, but our bodies and brains are not capable of only turning off one kind of emotion. So if you are constantly distracting your children away from sadness, and rather than saying, I can tell you're really sad, sometimes I feel sad too, and really talking about that sadness. Yes, dear. Yes, my earring. Yes. Yes, there is another one. You're right. So he is distracting me. You are correct. You missed the first 10 minutes of this shit show. So really, see, now I'm totally distracted. Oh, shutting down emotions. So if you're constantly distracting your child away from sadness or distracting them away from their anger, eventually they learn to shut it off because the message they get is, this wasn't important to you. It was so unimportant that you didn't take the minute to help me process it and you just gave me a puzzle or you gave me some crayons instead. And so our kids subconsciously, not intentionally, they're not analyzing going, my mom doesn't care about my feelings, but they're intentionally coming back and saying, or they're unintentionally, subconsciously, their brain is getting the message of, when I have that feeling and I give this response, we have to stay away from it. And so when you shut off sadness, you shut off access to your entire emotional range. When you shut off anger, you shut off your entire emotional range, which is part of why when people are very, very stoic and they don't seem to have an emotional range, it's often related to depression. And thank you for kissing my computer. Because not only do they not know how to feel happy anymore, their brains have shut down happiness and joy and fulfillment. And so now they're not even sad. They're just blank. That's gross. Please stop doing that. Please don't spit, okay? Because that makes a mess and it's yucky. It shares germs. Can we keep our spit to ourselves, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So it's really important that when you're teaching your kids about emotion, you keep in mind that you can't shut off access to one without losing all the others. So if we are frequently trying to shut down sadness rather than process through it, our kids are also starting to shut down some of their joy and pleasure receptors. And that's crappy. Who wants to shut down an entire emotional range in your life? That's not a good way to live. So video about distraction, as it turns out, was quite spot on tonight. So I'm going to go get this little munchkin down to bed. I'm going to go take care of the other little munchkin and get him to bed pretty soon. I don't even know what else to say about this one tonight. Thank you so much for joining us through this series. If you have not gone back and watched segments 1 through 4, I do highly recommend. I know there have been a few people who have been with me each night through, and I think that they would agree that they are all able to be watched individually. You don't necessarily have to have the background of all of them to make sense and get benefit and value out of each video, but they all kind of build on top of one another and they're all incorporated in a way. So if you have a couple blocks of 20 or 30 minutes and you can jump on and watch them or listen to them in the car, something like that, I think that you would find that valuable. As always, if you have questions, drop them in the comments. You can PM me, you can email me, info@phoenixfamilybirth.com. And I'm here however you need. So don't feel shy. You can always reach out to me about anything. All right. What a mess. Happy Monday. Bye, y'all.